Very good evening, friends. Meeting again in the session of philosophy, and we have started discussing about new chapter from the H.A. Robert, that is local application. The concept which he has tried to explain in detail, as explained by Hahnemann in the Organon of Medicine, and as advocated by Hahnemann sir, that local applications, whatever may be the cause, whether it is acute or chronic disease, one should avoid applying the local application. Because if you try to remove these external applications by means of external eruptions or external things with the help of local measure, it always travels the disease from less important organ to the more vital organ. And that is what is called as the suppression. It always hampers, or the curable case generally becomes incurable because of such methods. And that's why he has tried to explain it with the help of different examples, where he explained that how those disorders get more internal because of such a thing. We have discussed major part of the chapter on up to the page number 177, the three paragraphs, I think we have finished. Let us go ahead what he further wants to say about it. This is a subject which has not been made clear to many homeopathic physicians, and many well-meaning practitioners have resorted to the external measures, but there is no wavering in Hahnemann's own teaching. There are many things in common use by physicians in general whose ultimate results needs to be carefully considered by careful physicians. These methods are not confined to physicians of regular school, but are also used by many physicians who are devoting themselves to specialty. First among these methods, which are objectionable from the Hahnemannian point of view and which cause trouble for large number of patients, is the indiscriminate and persistent use of astringent sprays, which are usually permeated with the medicinal ingredients. This is particularly true of the nasal sprays and douches, and their action is suppressive of the natural discharges of the body whenever such treatment is used, and so clogs and shuts off the natural outlets of the sinuses in the nose and face. When the natural discharges are once suppressed and shut in, we have the ideal circumference for abscess formation, for we have heat, moisture, and bacilli. No better field can be devised, not even the incubating ovens of the laboratory. So see how what clearly Robert mentions about the things. He mentions over there, these are the things, if they are there on the surface and if you try to make it externally, even the astringent spray, for if the patient has a recurrent coryza, there is some reason behind it why he is having discharge. And if you use nasal sprays and you stop that discharge, it saturates inside, produces an abscess. Basically, it's sinusitis, maxillary or frontal, and this is goes in a deeper plane. From the surface, it goes to the bones or cavities of bones, producing more deeper problems. And this thing is not at all advocated or explained by Hahnemann. He says one should not go for such types of measure. Even today, there are many things which comes as a superficially using things. Patients who are having the asthmatic troubles, they used to take the inhaler and they feel better. But how much time? It is only palliated. And if you palliate it for longer time of duration, it always ends with some important affecting the some important vital organ, and then patient it is considered as a new disorder. But actually, is it a new disorder? It is not a new disorder. It is the transformation of the disease from less important organ to the more important organ. And that's why local application by any means, Hahnemann says one should not go for it. And then he says, all unnatural nodes and throat discharges should be met with by the minimum for each individual case. And it is never safe to resort to or permit the patients to use local means to stay the flood of discharges from the nose and throat. So one should not go with any local measures. If there are discharges from the nose, if there are discharges from the throat, one should not go for any local treatment. It is much better to let them run their course without medicine, to use the slightest means to lock the natural outlet. So if you lock these natural outlets, then definitely you will going to create a problem, a turmoil for the patient. The satisfaction and reward that the Hahnemannian homeopath adds in abiding by this rule and staying with his patient in these aggravating conditions and seeing them to recover rapidly and painlessly in the natural order of sequence is worth all the pains and care that are expended. So, even though the patient has those discharges and which are coming out, if you are a Hahnemannian homeopath, let it appear. Ask the patient that this will going to appear. Even though there is little bit aggravation, let it appear. It throws away the toxins, it throws away the discharges, and because of which your vital organs are remaining safe. If you want to treat it internally, but not at all by local measures. So, these are very essential things which are necessary in your practice. Whenever you are treating such types of disorders, if the discharge is coming out, let it come out. Tell the patient this is necessary. This is an outlet because of which your internal organs are remaining safe. If they get settled completely, if the internal disease gets settled completely, those discharges will going to stop automatically. But don't use any local measures to stop those discharges. And then he says, I have been in practice for nearly 40 years, all of the time in New England, where sinus troubles is rampant, and I have never yet had a case of sinus infection develop in my own practice. So what he is saying? He has practiced 40 years over there in England, and he says there was not a single patient who went into the sinusitis after because he has not treated it locally. But in England, there were many patients of sinusitis were there. I have received many from other physicians, but have never seen one develop in a patient who has been treated with the indicated remedy. So if you are treating local measures by the utilization of the internal remedy on the basis of law of similar, patient will not enter into the sinusitis. He will definitely going to settle without producing any internal trauma or any internal trouble. Another field where much harm is done is in the gynecological work. Leucorrheal discharges are exceedingly troublesome to many patients, and astringent doses are frequently ordered by the specialists in this field. Lotions and astringent doses can and do suppress the quantity of these secretions, oftentimes changing their character entirely. This treatment appeals to the patient because it speedily reduces the offensiveness of the symptom. The temptation would be to do this very thing if we did not know the fundamental law that vital energy will express itself and in the kindest way to the future health of the patient. When we attempting to alter by physiological means, we are bound to disturb that vital force and cause it to express itself in some other channel than that which is natural chooses. So he has given example of gynecologists where leukorrhea is generally treated by local means. Many times they examine, they observe, and they explain to the patient that is there is some erosion on cervix, and they do the cauteries and all those things, and they use the local antifungals and etc. What happens because of this? He explains because of this method, the character of leukorrhea changes. The irritation might disappear, the offensiveness might disappear, but there is no cure because you have not treated it internally. This is an outlet of a natural channel through which it is coming out because there is an internal disease. Unless you treat that disease internally, this will not going to stop. And if you go on doing this again and again, it will locate somewhere else to the vital organ, and then there will be a development of internal disorder. And that's why he says these local measures are not at all advocated even in gynec practice. And then he further says, along this same line is the promiscuous use of local application, deodorants to suppress or change the character of perspiration. This is exceedingly objectionable because it leaves pent up in the system that which is poisonous and injurious to the health of the individual. This condition is not often observed by the doctor unless he by chance runs across it or is on the alert for such separation. Many physicians, many patients who used to use deodorants, and nowadays in modern era, this is a habit of the many people. What do? In order to prevent the smell of perspiration, they use this deodorant. They feel, yes, they are feeling well, they are feeling happy, they are uh, feeling pleasant, but at what cost? If you stop the natural outlets of the body to which through the perspiration, one of the excretory system, if you stop that, if you blocks them, the toxins remains inside the body. And once they remains inside body, they always causes internal trouble. And that's why he explains over there. Use of deodorant is not at all advised by anyone. It should be stopped immediately. And to conclude chapter, what he says, in the indiscriminate use of surgery, now he turns toward the surgery local as a local treatment. In the indiscriminate use of surgery, the habit of painting the patient with iodine is objectionable from 2 points: that of the absorption of the drug and from the local irritation that this drug so frequently creates. Many patients are exceedingly susceptible to the drugs in such form, and it is not uncommon for involuntary provings to be made by local use of iodine and other applications on such a patient. One patient was particularly sensitive to zinc in any form and felt constitutional symptoms after the use of adhesive tape or talcum powders. So he says that even application of the local use of iodine may affect the human health. It may get absorbed and produces its effects on body. He has given one more example of talcum powder, because that all contains the ginkum. And many times, if it has been inhaled by means or if it goes penetrates the body, it produces constitutional symptoms of it. And such a things should be avoided by any means. And to lastly, to conclude chapter, he says, I want to urge strongly the use of asepsis in our obstetric wards instead of antisepsis, because at this particular period, the whole female genital tract is particularly susceptible to the use of antiseptic drug, whereas the asepsis is strictly carried out, patient's recovery is eventful. There is a method that they used to use many local antibiotics, even such local measures, local antibiotics, and it used to produce dangerous effects on the body. He says instead of antisepsis, you use the method of asepsis. And if you use the asepsis, then recovery is very fast. If you use the antisepsis, patient takes long time to recover. And this happens many times. So the things which he has explained over here is very important, that local applications by any means affects the human health. So as far as possible, try to avoid those local measures. Even for health point of view, means even though you are using in a healthy state or even though you are using in disease states. So here completes one more chapter from the third year syllabus, that is the local application. Only last chapter, that is the deflected current, the second last chapter of this book, that is remaining. And tomorrow we're going to start with that chapter, the deflected current, and what actually he wants to explain with this deflected current. It is a big chapter, but which explains many concepts of the homeopathy. So be there for tomorrow's session at same time. And today evening also we're going to learn one more remedy from our third year syllabus. So we are going ahead with both organ and philosophy as well as the materia medica. In between, whenever time permits, I will going to take few sessions about the therapeutics. That's a need of the students. So that is there in my mind. Someone have asked for repertory lectures also, but first we have to go with these two and finish the syllabus. So thank you being there, and we'll meet at 8:15.
Thank you very much,
Sir,
sir.
sir,
Yes.
sir, I wanted to ask you regarding an infant. He cannot hold his head up. He's 4 months old already.
Hmm.
So how should we go about it, sir?
You have to take the whole case. You have to find it out constitutional
Yeah,
remedy. No
I
local
have
remedy
found it.
will going to work.
Okay, okay, sir.
This
So that we
indicates
should give
a
in potency and biochemic.
no. Biochemic, you first understand the case, why the delayed milestones are
Okay.
there.
They have not done massage for him because of some
But
reason.
that is not a reason.
Okay, okay, sir.
That is not
Okay,
the
sir.
reason. It definitely has some deeper cause.
Okay, okay, sir.
Hmm?
Okay,
First,
sir.
find it out what may be the cause. Why such neck holding is not there. It indicates dwarfism. It indicates cerebral hypoxia. Many things.
Okay, okay, sir.
Okay. Vicks and
Okay.
Iodex should not be used. Not at all. That is also a local application, affects the human body. No tiger balm, no balm, Amrutanjan, nothing. Okay, thank you. Good evening.
Thank you, sir. Have a good evening.